I was wondering if you could talk to that to give us your own opinion on the existential risks of AI and how the kind of work that you're doing, policy research, could help to prevent the apocalypse. um, and then it would also be great if you could distinguish for us the nuances between AI safety, AI alignment, AI policy, potentially other fields that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, so a few thoughts. So first, one way of thinking about AI is that there's kind of something for everyone, and in the when you think about the risks and impacts and kind of reasons for working on it, like if you're concerned about social justice, there's you should be worried about AI. If you're concerned about warfare, you should be worried about AI. If you're concerned about economics, you should worry about AI. So I think there's no shortage of reasons on existential risk in particular. I think there are kind of various plausible ways that highly capable systems, if they weren't aligned with our values, could cause harm. I think similarly, they can be deliberately misused by actors that don't necessarily share our values, either non-state actors or by authoritarian governments to entrench their power. So I think we should think very seriously about where it's going, and have guardrails in place, both in the near term and in the long term. Regarding AI policy, ethics, etc., I think there are like several different, somewhat ill-defined and overlapping areas of work. So AI safety is a term that is sometimes used, which in turn could be broken down into things like alignment, robustness, it's ML security, etc. There's like a bunch of clusters of things that could plausibly be considered AI safety, including making sure that systems do what we ask them to, are honest, aren't trying to deceive people, and so forth. There's also AI policy, AI ethics. So you might think of AI ethics as what are kind of the right things to do with this technology, particularly where it might involve trade-offs between different values. So how do we weigh things like privacy and utility and other kind of factors when they might come into tension, and kind of think through the rights and responsibilities of people affected by AI, or building AI. AI policy is sort of translating that kind of normative understanding of what's right, what's wrong into actual practices. So you might think of policy, AI policy as sort of translating some evidence base and some set of normative assumptions generated by ethical reasoning, and an understanding of the capabilities of models into actual practices. So, for example, product policies and public policies, and sort of shaping decision making in an authoritative way to actually constrain some of the risks that are identified via AI safety and ethics research. But that's a somewhat arbitrary way of slicing and dicing it. I mean, there are all sorts of other terms I could have mentioned, like AI governance and strategy
Mm,
and
mm,
so
mhm.
forth. And different people frame these in different ways. But again, I think the like big ticket takeaway is that there's something for everyone, and lots of opportunities to make sure that AI helps rather than hurts people.